Hurai is a disgusting cartoon who enjoys playing pretend until his dream of possessing superpowers comes true. Now, as the overpowered edgelord, Hurai makes a harem filled with powerful baddies. It all begins with Tomoyo walking towards the literature club after winding up her classes for the day. However, as she enters the room, she is greeted by Hurai clutching his hand like he is in pain. The boy wails in pain and tells Tomoyo to stay back, because his wonking hand seems to be out of control. Sighing, Tomoyo walks past him, ignoring his existence like your father ignores your worthless existence. Saddened by Tomoyo's reaction, Hurai stands up and tells her sarcastically that she must be really fun at parties. As Hurai labels Tomoyo boring in comparison to the rest of the members, Tomoyo's mood shifts to annoyance. She tells Hurai that what he said is simply not true, as her mommy issues have made it impossible for her to be unfunny. With that, Tomoyo also tells Hurai that everyone is tired of him acting like a schizophrenic. Unable to handle such facts, Hurai tells Tomoyo that she is lying. A smile forms on Tomoyo's lips as she challenges Hurai to prove her wrong. Accepting the challenge, Hurai quickly clutches his hand in pain as Hitoko walks in. Seeing this, Hitoko becomes worried and rings up the vet so they can do something about this donkey. Hurai tells her to end the call, but when she doesn't do that, he takes the phone and assures the doc he is already feeling much better. Tomoyo looks at Hurai with an "I told you so" expression, which frustrates him so much that he tells Tomoyo that she is the reason men have relationships with blow-up dolls. However, still adamant about being right, Hurai makes up his mind to level up his game. So when the door opens to the second time, Hurai wails in pain with red paint smeared over his face. But when he looks up and finds Chifuyu with a startled look, Hurai quickly wipes off the paint and assures Chifuyu that all is good. Unfortunately, it's too late as Chifuyu looks at Hurai with tears in her eyes. Sayumi walks in and quickly reprimands Hurai by asking him if his first name is Mo and last name Lester. After calming down, Hitoko offers some chalky milk to Chifuyu and apologizes for terrorizing her. Chifuyu blankly tells everyone that her young mind has already been destroyed when she saw her dad's browsing history. Hitoko turns her attention back to Hurai and asks him if he got touched when he was younger and needs to have make-believe scenarios to escape the horrors. Feeling frustrated, Hurai tells the girls they're all boring, and what he does isn't make-believe but stimulation. He elaborates that they should all be ready when their inner self turns on them. Sighing, Tomoyo tells Hurai to stop snorting coke, but the boy gets back by asking her if she can be sure she won't ever get superpowers. Tomoyo states that her common sense doesn't allow her to pursue such stupid scenarios. In response, Hurai asks her if her common sense can explain the secrets of the universe which originated eons ago. Seeing him justify his actions, the girls realize Hurai is like an addict who goes through great lengths to justify why doing crack on a hooker's crack is life-changing. All of a sudden, Hurai's palm begins to glow. However, assuming it's one of his party tricks, the girls tell Hurai to stop, but he insists that this is not something he is doing. 6 months later, like always, Tomoyo walks inside the club and finds Hurai clutching his hand, ready to put on a performance yet again. However, before he could do so, Tomoyo stops him and tells Hurai to pipe it down. After settling down, Tomoyo states that she can't believe they are part of the other world now. Suddenly, Hitoko arrives, which prompts Hurai to take his position. He holds out his hand and tells Hitoko that his palm is burning. Hearing this, Hitoko unleashes a huge water bubble which swallows Hurai whole. Seeing the scene unfold, Tomoyo quickly intervenes by freezing time and taking Hurai out of the water bubble. After saving him, Tomoyo tells Hurai that she wishes her mother had swallowed him instead of the water bubble.
Damn!
All of a sudden, Chifuyu appears from the wall, shocking Hitoko, who states that she can never get used to Chifuyu's powers. Sayumi arrives shortly and tells Hurai that because of his constant commotion, other clubs have lodged a noise complaint against them to the student council. As Hurai apologizes for his behavior, Sayumi turns her attention to the club members and asks them to get ready for the monthly superpowers check. The members of the literature club are then spotted in a desert where Hitoko and Chifuyu have a face-off. Chifuyu directs a series of arrows toward Hitoko, who unleashes a whirlwind to nullify the attack. As it turns out, Chifuyu contains the power of world create, which allows her to create anything including space. On the other hand, Hitoko has the power to manipulate all 5 elements. As the fight between Chifuyu and Hitoko becomes intense, Sayumi orders Tomoyo to do her thing. With a snap of her fingers, Tomoyo breaks the fight, by using her ability called Closed Clock, aka the power of time manipulation. Hurai tells the gang that since Tomoyo has displayed her powers, Sayumi should be up next. Hearing this, Sayumi reveals her power hasn't developed much. With that, she touches Chifuyu's dirty uniform and transforms it into a neat one. Hurai notes that Sayumi's power, route of origin, allows her to restore anything she touches to its original state, which means she would be a perfect wife for a stinky gamer. Sayumi then tells the gang that it's time to wrap this up, which upsets Hurai, who states that he never got to display his powers. As always, everyone dismisses him when suddenly the student council president, Mirei, walks inside the club room. The members of the literature club quickly arrange the club back to its original state and nervously ask Mirei why she's here. The press reveals that she's here for an inspection, as other clubs have complained that the literature club sounds like it's a set for black. Hearing this, Hurai smirks and tells Mirei she should drop the act since he has figured out her true identity. As he continues to babble, Tomoyo knocks Hurai out and apologizes to the president for his nonsense. To everyone's surprise, Mirei asks Hurai how he managed to figure out her identity. She also reveals that she has been spying on them ever since she learned they have awakened their powers like she did. Since Hurai had unknowingly hit the bullseye, he asks Mirei about her true objective. Instead of answering him, Mirei states that she will only reveal her goal once they beat her in a fight. Slightly worried, the girls ask Hurai if they should beat Mirei with their powers. However, Hurai tells them to sit back and watch him take care of things. The girls try to object, but Hurai tells them to make him a sandwich while he takes out the enemy. He faces Mirei and asks her if she knows why he wears a blazer every day to school. When the girl blankly says that it's because it's in the rulebook, Hurai states that the blazer is actually a restraint that weighs as much as her mom. As he throws his blazer to Batoko, she notes that the blazer isn't that heavy, which means Hurai had just been spewing nonsense. Tomoyo grows worried as she knows Hurai's power is not all that impressive. In the meantime, Hurai unleashes his power called Dark and Dark, which is just a ball of blazing dark fire. But as he reveals his power, Mirei quickly steals it, revealing that she has the ability to steal powers. Feeling sad, Hurai reveals how he would whisper sweet things to his power, and then begs Mirei to hand it back to him. However, Mirei inspects the ball of fire and realizes that it's utterly useless. The members of the literature club confirm that Hurai's power is absolute bullshit, which instantly sends the boy in depression. Mirei turns her attention back to the girls and asks them to fight her. Tomoyo steps up but tells Mirei that she won't show her power. With that, she tells Mirei that when she was fighting Hurai, she loudly exclaimed about how he showed his power to her, which means that to activate her power, she needs to witness the moment someone invokes their power. As Mirei struggles to answer, Tomoyo smiles triumphantly, realizing her speculation was correct. She then announces that since they can't show their superpowers, this means they'll have to resort to a physical fight. On that note, Sayumi steps up and says that she will fight her since she's the president of the club, who also has a black belt. As Sayumi overwhelms Mirei, the student council president quickly apologizes and says that she never had any ill intentions. Turns out Mirei had unlocked her superpower a few months ago. Instead of rejoicing, Mirei lived in constant fear and confusion until she received an anonymous tip about the literature club. This made her spy on Hurai and the girls, and upon learning about their powers, Mirei became fearful and decided to fight them before they jumped on her. Once the misunderstanding was cleared up, Mirei returned Hurai his powers. However, this brings them to a more pressing issue, as the girls wonder about the person who sent Mirei the tip on them. The following day, Hurai rounds up all the members of the literature club and asks them to pick a nickname for themselves in case they become superheroes. However, Tomoyo instantly objects and tells Hurai that she does not want to roleplay as a resident of a psych ward. Enraged by this, Hurai calls her eating bacteria and reminds her that everyone agreed to this. Tomoyo, feeling offended, tries to object yet again, but the rest of the members somehow manage to convince her. In the end, Tomoyo sighs and tells Hurai that she will come up with an alias. Feeling pleased, Hurai asks Hitoko if she is done with her work. Hitoko then proudly reveals how she came up with a nickname called Red Hitoko. A wave of cringe takes over Hurai's body as he tells Hitoko that she cannot just add a color next to her name and call it an alias. He then shifts his attention to Sayumi and is pleased when she comes up with creative nicknames. However, he tells Sayumi that her nicknames sound too cute and juvenile. almost as if she is trying to lure in a Discord mod. Hearing this, Sayumi blushes brightly and quickly excuses herself to use the restroom. With Sayumi gone, Hurai turns his attention towards Chifuyu, who reveals her nicknames, which all sound like she is trying to catch a jail sentence. In the end, Chifuyu settles on the nickname Pineapple, much to Hurai's disappointment. Just when Hurai is about to unsubscribe from life, Tomoyo reveals that she came up with a nickname, Endless Paradox. As Tomoyo explains that she came up with this nickname, knowing it will sound music to his ears, Hurai starts to cry and states that the mentee has finally surpassed the mentor. Unfortunately, this does not sound like a compliment to Tomoyo, who freaks out upon learning she has outdone Hurai's freak. All of a sudden, Mirei walks inside the club room and states that their club always sounds like a family court. Sayumi smirks and tells Mirei to reveal the true reason for her visit. And so Mirei turns to Jirei and states that she is here to reply to his love letter. With that, she tells him that she will gladly let him glaze her up like she is a donut from Dunkin' Donuts. Surprised and flabbergasted, Hurai and the rest of the members ask Mirei what she means, and so Mirei repeats herself, saying she loves Hurai and would like to go out with him. When Hurai and the rest once again go into shock, Tomoyo asks Mirei why she would confess to someone like Jirai. Instead of answering, Mirei asks her if she is also into Jirai. Despite blushing profusely, Tomoyo quickly tells Mirei that she would rather paint her house with a nail paintbrush than go out with Jirai. Hearing this, Mirei tells Tomoyo to not butt in if she is not interested in Jirai. Tomoyo instantly runs to Hurai and demands to know why Mirei is babbling all that nonsense. As Jirai claims to be innocent, Mirei reveals how she found his love letter in her locker. Despite it all, Hurai insists that he is only loyal to his right hand, which prompts Mirei to reveal the letter. She reads the letter out loud, revealing how Jirai claimed to be impressed by her ability and has decided to give her the nickname Grateful Lover. The members of the literature club realize what's going on as Jirai clarifies that he was only complimenting Mirei's powers. Sayumi then asks Mirei how she came to interpret the letter as a confession of love. Mirei proudly states that every line of the letter is expressing how Jirai is madly in love with her. While the press continues with her conspiracy theory, Tomoyo asks Hurai why he had to go and call Mirei lover. Hurai then reveals that he used the word lover figuratively, as a lover usually steals your heart. Hearing this, Tomoyo asks Jirai if he got possessed by Shakespeare's ghost, but the boy states that he did not know his letter would break Mirei's virgin mind. Just when he tries to clear out the misunderstanding, Mirei calls Hurai darling, which triggers his mommy issues, causing him to go nonverbal. Tomoyo, now hearing the wedding bells, asks someone to intervene. Fortunately, Chifuyu tells Mirei that she cannot steal her PDF file from her. In response, Mirei tells her to just go on Omegle and find a new one, but Chifuyu insists that she likes Hurai the most. As Mirei tries to ignore the little troll, Tomoyo asks Mirei to reconsider her decision or else she will wind up as a single mom. Now pissed, Mirei confronts Tomoyo by asking her if she is jealous of her because she has bigger tatas. She also tells Tomoyo that she should not be green with envy, cause she would not look good as a Grinch. After hearing so much insult, Tomoyo activates her power, but before she could harm Mirei, the prez instantly steals her power. Upon seeing the scene unfold, Jirai requests Mirei to return Tomoyo's power. And since Mirei has love on her brain, she instantly does as told. The following day after class, Hurai gets visited by Mirei, who instantly latches herself on his shoulder. As they continue to walk, Mirei reveals how she missed him while Hurai quietly listens to Mirei, telling him how she would burn her entire family just so they can have a candlelight dinner. Upon reaching the literature club, Mirei warns Jirai that if he cheats on her, she will cut his family jewels and feed it to him. With that, Mirei parts ways, leaving Hurai utterly confused. Turning to his side, Hurai finds all the girls of the literature club peeping from the door. However, the moment he walks in, they all pretend to not notice him. Surprised by their behavior, Hurai asks them if their period cycle cinched up. Frustrated, Tomoyo states that she legit threw up after seeing him flirt with Mirei in the hallway. Hurai then blankly tells Tomoyo that he literally got told by Mirei that she would make a soup out of his baby makers if he cheated. After realizing Tomoyo is a lost cause, Hurai shifts his attention towards Hitoko, who tells him that she is ignoring him. Hearing this, Hurai states that he will simply not talk to her. This way, she will not be able to ignore him. Stunned by this, Hitoko asks Hurai how she should ignore him, but the boy calls her an nincompoop and sends her on her way. After dealing with Hitoko, Hirai comes to Chifuyu, who uses her puppet to communicate. She tells Hirai that she is upset with him, and he should not treat her like a child. So in order to prove she is still a child, Hirai steals her puppet, which makes her cry. Frustrated by this, Chifuyu complains to Hitoko, who advises her to ignore Hirai. Next, Hirai greets Sayumi, but instead of a warm hello, Sayumi tells him to romance. Surprised by everyone's cold behavior, Hirai tries to understand their problem. In the end, Sayumi discloses that everyone hates how he has a girlfriend now. Hirai then tells the girls that he will fix this issue and goes to talk to Mirei. He bows in front of her and states how the whole letter was nothing but a big misunderstanding. As Mirei hears the clarification, her legs begin to wobble. She tells Hirai that it's not his fault that she misunderstood, while also assuring him that she is not that hurt. Of course, that is a big fat lie, and Mirei's diary is going to be hearing all about how all men are pigs. As Mirei runs off, Tomoyo arrives and tries to cheer Hirai up by telling him that it's not his fault entirely, but Hirai states that a man should only make a woman wet from her hoo-ha. Wanting to divert his mind, Tomoyo asks Hirai why he was so hellbent on choosing nicknames. Hirai then reveals that he wanted all of them to feel unified. He also explains that he picked a name for Mirei himself because she dealt with a lot of things on her own, and he wanted her to know that they are all there for her. That night, Hirai receives an email from Mirei, thanking him for the nickname. The next day, Hirai's teacher, Satomi, summons him in the teacher's room and asks him if he knows why he is here. Without skipping a beat, Hirai says that it's because she needs her pipes cleaned, but to his disappointment, Satomi pulls out his exam. She explains that he has used difficult kanji, making her already tiresome job more hectic. To justify his actions, Hirai states that using professional kanji just sounds more bougie. Realizing there is no way she can screw with Hirai's educational career, Satomi sighs and says she is going to nap before she turns into an emo teen. With his teacher out cold, Hirai turns and finds his classmate, Sayumi. He asks him why he is here, and the boy reveals that he is here to get his lover back. With that, Sayumi asks Satomi to return his lover. Satomi uses her foot to pass the phone to Sayumi and tells him to not play games in the class again. However, having Satomi's feet right in his face, Sayumi tells her that he would commit war crimes for just a pick of her big toe. As Satomi looks at him with disgust, Hirai asks Sayumi about his love life since he was dating a first year. Sayumi then informs him that he already broke up with her, but then corrects himself, explaining that she broke up with him even though she was the one who confessed. Upon hearing this, Hirai remarks that the girl probably broke up with him after finding out he likes anime with lolas. As the two boys have a heated argument, Satomi comments on how they look like a couple. This upsets both Sayumi and Hirai, who exclaim that they hate each other like a liberal woman hates babies. When the boys continue to argue, Satomi has enough and kicks them out. Now sitting by the stairs, the boys talk briefly before parting ways. Sensing a presence behind him, Hirai turns and finds Sayumi with a satisfied look on her face. She reveals that she was observing his interaction with Sayumi, so she can later imagine them together in a compromised position.
Yeah, boy.
Hirai begs her to not dishonor him, but Sayumi changes topic and says that it's time to go to the club. With that, she also announces that today is the Literature Club's recreation day. Arriving at the club room, Hirai and Tomoyo are seen engaged in a heated game of tennis. Just as Tomoyo scores a winning point, the ball bounces on the net and hits Tomoyo's face, causing her to fall on her ass. Thanks to her fall, Hirai gets a first-class show to Tomoyo's Chamber of Secrets. This prompts Hirai to state that backshots with her will sound like 9/11. After regaining her balance, Tomoyo states that she is surprised to see Hitoko play so well against Sayumi. On that note, Hirai reveals that Hitoko used to catch STDs like Pokemons, so catching a tennis ball is nothing for her. Bewildered by the information, Tomoyo remarks how Hitoko looks like such a nice girl though. The topic changes to how, thanks to Chifuyu, they are able to play tennis, since she is the one who created the court and the equipment. Suddenly, Hitoko and Sayumi arrive to inform the two losers that it's time to switch up. As Hirai faces Hitoko, he smirks and tells her that he will not go easy on her just because she is a snow bunny. Hitoko smiles and directs a fireball at Hirai, which ends the match as there is no way a loser like Hirai can counter that. Once the club returns to its original state, Hitoko apologizes to Hirai for almost showing a glimpse of his afterlife. As Hurai shrugs the ass-whooping, he pulls out a book called the Bloody Bible, where he stores all his nicknames. When he proudly shows his book, Tomoyo tells him that he hasn't misspelled the Bible. This prompts everyone to laugh at his illiterate. Once it's time to go home, the girls express a sudden desire to hit a karaoke club. Excited by the idea, Hurai states that he wants to come too. But of course, the girls tell him that since he is the same height as them, he cannot come with them anywhere. After a lot of whining, Hurai seeks his bloodied Bible, but realizes it's missing from his bag. Now panicking, Hurai tells the girls to go ahead as he needs to find the Bible. Not giving a second thought, the chicks decide to bounce, leaving Hurai to deal with his crap. However, seconds later, Batoko tells the gang how when they were kids, everyone used to call her Utters, even though she hated the nickname. Then Hurai came and gave her an eccentric nickname, which everyone found so bizarre that they just decided to call her by her name. Upon hearing this, the girls tell Hitoko that Hurai did not do that out of the goodness of his heart. Hitoko responds back, stating that she knows that, but thanks to Hurai's aloofness, she did not get tormented further. Agreeing with Hitoko, Sayumi states how Hurai might be an idiot, but he is always useful in tough situations. With that, she reveals how when she found herself asking whether she should revive the dead or not with her power, Hurai sternly advised her against it, and he was right as she knows she will never be the same again. Likewise, Chifuyu reveals how Hurai told her not to create life with her power. After sharing stories, the girls realize how Hurai has taken up so much time to analyze their powers, and even came up with cool names. In the meantime, Hurai arrives at school in search of his Bible. Upon entering the club room, he finds a punk boy holding his Bible. As the boy goes through the Bible, he tells Hurai that he has come up with some interesting names. He then pulls his own notebook and tells Hurai that he calls it the Reverse Crux Records, surprising Hurai. Upon finding someone that matches his freak, Hurai instantly asks the boy for his name. And so, the punk states that he goes by the name of Kiryu. Since it's love at first sight, Hurai and Kiryu head to a cafe where Hurai studies Kiryu's Crux Records and compliments the nicknames with a profound meaning attached to it. Kiryu then comments on how he came to the literature club to peep on the baddies, but ended up finding his bro. And upon learning that Kiryu is an alumna, Hurai states that they were really destined to meet. As their conversation progresses, Tomoyo arrives and instantly recognizes Kiryu. Turns out they are siblings who share the same father but have different mothers. Tomoyo tells Kiryu to come home, but he curtly tells her no. Before his departure, Kiryu tells Hurai they will meet again. Once Kiryu takes off, Tomoyo tells Hurai about how Kiryu has always been this amazing, smart individual. But then, one day he discovered Nikocado Avocado's YouTube channel and started claiming the world is all wrong. The next day, on his way to school, Hurai stumbles upon Chifuyu, who reveals that she has quit elementary school. Since Chifuyu had been feeling quite sad, Hurai decides to give her a piggyback ride to school. However, on the way, his weak back gives out and he asks Chifuyu to just walk like a peasant. This does not bode well with Chifuyu, who starts complimenting his back, which fuels his ego, prompting Hurai to just carry Chifuyu all the way to school. Upon arriving, Hurai huffs and puffs like he is ready to blow a pig's straw house when suddenly, an ugly girl greets Chifuyu. Instantly, the girl starts tidying up Chifuyu's uniform. Surprised by the little girl's behavior, Hurai asks Chifuyu who this bootlicker is. The little girl finally acknowledges Hurai's presence and introduces herself as Kyuki. Upon hearing her name, Hurai has an instant mind boner as he raves about how cool her name is. Seeing a teen boy twerk in front of her, Kyuki asks Chifuyu who that worm is. When Chifuyu informs her that it's none other than Hurai, Kyuki realizes that he is the dude from the literature club. Hurai finally calms down and tells Kyuki to always remain friends with Chifuyu. But since kids are nothing but crotch demons, Kyuki rudely tells Hurai that he does not need to tell her that. Once the girls walk inside, Hurai wonders why Chifuyu wanted to quit elementary school. Hurai decides to just head to his own school. Upon arrival, Hurai accidentally bumps into Sayumi, who tells him that he needs to be mindful of the people who walk while sleeping. Hurai blankly tells her that only she does that until Sayumi changes subjects and asks Hurai if Chifuyu has been hanging out with them. When Hurai confirms, Sayumi pauses for a moment and then states that it's not normal for Chifuyu to be hanging out with him and the other members. After his classes, Hurai enters the club room. With everyone present, Hurai says in a serious tone that with Chifuyu's power they can easily do cosplays. This upsets the girls as they thought Hurai was about to say something serious. So in order to punish him, they make Hurai wear a maid outfit. Sayumi instantly starts taking pictures and then tells Hurai that she is going to write the steamiest story on him and Sagami AO3 has ever seen. After getting bullied, Hurai tells Sayumi that it's her turn, so reluctantly, Sayumi is made to wear bloomers. Upon seeing Sayumi in that outfit, Hurai tells everyone that Sayumi's thighs could have easily been the reason for Rome's collapse. Of course, that earns him a gut punch. Up next, Hitoko is made to cosplay as a son. Chifuyu states that it was her who came up with that since she cannot be the son her father wanted. She might as well be the son that brightens people's lives. On Chifuyu's turn, she is made to wear a dress which her ex should have been in. Finally, it's Tomoyo's turn, and she wears a bikini armor which everyone finds cool. Without skipping a beat, Tomoyo turns to Hurai and asks him what he thinks of her outfit. When the boy compliments her shyly, Tomoyo becomes happy. Her smile does not go unnoticed by Hitoko. All of a sudden, Chifuyu tells Hurai to take a picture of them together so they can freeze this moment forever. After taking pictures, the gang receives an unannounced visitor. With Satomi waiting by the door, Hurai quickly tells Chifuyu to dispel her power. However, when Chifuyu does as told, the gang end up in their birthday suits. After taking a moment to fix their uniforms, the members of the literature club finally let Satomi in. Satomi tells Chifuyu if her stomach ache is better since she left elementary school early. When Chifuyu struggles to answer, Somi asks her if she is lying. Chifuyu hides behind her teddy, which prompts Satomi to go easy on her. She tells Chifuyu to behave herself and then takes her leave. Now alone, Hurai and the rest try to ask Chifuyu what's the matter, but instead of answering anyone, Chifuyu teleports home. Hurai winds up club activities for the day and goes home realizing he is home alone. Hurai does what every disgusting boy his age does. After removing all his clothes, Hurai gets ready for a grooming session when suddenly Chifuyu teleports to his place and catches him before he can have a meeting with his monster. Not wanting the FBI to break his door in this economy, Hurai tries to send Chifuyu back home, but the girl reveals that she had a fight with Kyuki, who told her to stop hanging out with Hurai and the rest of the members of the literature club. However, still feeling a deep desire to etch himself to oblivion, Hurai tells Chifuyu that they can talk about this tomorrow at school. It is then Chifuyu reveals that she actually left Kyuki by herself at her house. When Hurai tries to send her back, Chifuyu tells him that it's too awkward for her. Sighing, Hurai asks if she would like him to talk to Kyuki. Chifuyu quickly agrees and sends Hurai to her house, using a teleportation circle. At Chifuyu's place, Kyuki is met with a half-dressed Hurai who awkwardly tries to greet her. Kyuki's young mind begins to break, and she instantly rushes to Chifuyu to warn her about the naked, ugly man. As she begs her to not hang out with Hurai and the rest, Chifuyu coldly tells her that she will not listen to her. Heartbroken, Kyuki asks her if she does not enjoy being with her, but Chifuyu assures her that she loves hanging out with her. She also elaborates that she hangs out with Hurai and the older girls because they help her understand certain things. Confused, Kyuki asks her to be more clear, but Chifuyu curtly states that she cannot speak more on the subject. Hurt by this, Kyuki glares at Hurai and tearfully runs past Chifuyu. The next day, Hurai thanks Chifuyu for not telling Kyuki about their secret powers. Chifuyu states that this was the promise they all made and then reveals how Kyuki did not act like a bootlicker around her, which means she basically had to do everything on her own. Seeing Chifuyu so sad and lost without Kyuki, Hurai assures her that he will make everything right. So later that day, Hurai visits Kyuki, who is about to pull up a pepper spray when Hurai assures her that she is not into ugly kids. In the meantime, Chifuyu arrives at the literature club, where Hitoko fixes her teddy for her and assures her that she will make up with Kyuki, since they were close enough to fight in the first place. Back at Kyuki's place, Hurai tries to talk to her by telling Kyuki that even friends can have secrets, but Kyuki firmly states that she hates how Chifuyu is lying to her. Upon realizing there is no talking sense in this dumb matter, Hurai sighs and tells Kyuki that he will just reveal their secret to her, but before he does so, she has to promise about keeping the secret. Once Kyuki follows through, Hurai proudly states that he is a lion and Chifuyu hangs out with him so that he does not let his dark fantasies out in the world. At first, Kyuki is shocked and disgusted, but then eases into the information. All of a sudden, a car stops and Chifuyu comes out holding another stuffed toy. She reveals that Satomi dropped her off as she wanted to give this stuffed toy to her as a symbol of their friendship. With that, Chifuyu also states how she likes her and the members of the literature club. As Kyuki hears Chifuyu's earnest revelation, she begins to cry. Kyuki apologizes to Chifuyu and reveals how she was scared about getting replaced. Satomi then thanks Urei for looking after Chifuyu, but he shrugs it off by saying it was their responsibility as well. This prompts him to recall the time when Satomi first brought in Chifuyu. She introduced her as her sister's kid and told him to look after her. Since then, Chifuyu became an integral part of the literature club. The following day, Urei asks Chifuyu why she was trying to quit elementary school. Chifuyu then reveals that she saw Euphoria and wanted to experience life as a teen. She also informs them about how she was actually skipping classes to study for to school so she could jump classes. The following day at school, Urei arrives carrying a guitar. When the members of the literature club see him walk in with the guitar, they decide to ignore him. Urei tries to grab their attention by talking about how he wishes to play guitar and use it to express his feelings, but even then, Sayumi and Tomoyo actively ignore him. Suddenly, Hitoko notices Urei's abysmal existence and asks him about the guitar. Having achieved his goal, Urei asks if they have finally noticed the guitar. On that note, Tomoyo tells him that they were actually trying to ignore him since they did not want to hear him yap about something new. Urei calls Tomoyo knave and tells her that he could very well be carrying a weapon. And if that really is the case, then she should know that she is on top of his hate list. Tomoyo sighs and tells Urei to stop messing around. Sayumi joins her and tells him that if he wants them to see his guitar, then he best hurry. Taking Sayumi's warning to heart, Urei opens the guitar case, unraveling a red guitar. He then introduces the guitar as Infinity Maria, aka his life partner. In awe, Hitoko asks Urei if he is about to make an emo band with his punk guitar. Before he can answer, Chifuyu teleports and instantly demands to have the guitar. However, Urei hesitantly tells her that he cannot hand Maria to her since she is the love of his life. On that note, Chifuyu asks Urei to close his eyes. When Urei does so obediently, Chifuyu asks him to then open his eyes. In front of him are two identical red guitars. Chifuyu then tells him to pick Maria from the two guitars. Realizing what's going on, Urei states that this must be a test of his love for Maria. Chifuyu affirms and tells him that if he fails to point at the real Maria, then she will take the guitar for herself. Once Urei gets to work, Chifuyu levels up the stake by telling him that the guitar he thinks is fake will then get smashed to pieces by his own hands. Suddenly, Urei tells Chifuyu that he has understood her strategy and then smashes both the guitars. Smirking proudly, Urei states that he knows she was fooling him, and she is probably hiding the real Maria somewhere else. However, to his misfortune, Chifuyu reveals that she would never pull such a sneaky on him, and was in fact being fair and square. Upon hearing this, Urei goes into instant mourning, realizing his wicked brain cost him Maria. Seeing Jiraiya act like Romeo, Sayumi tells him that she can fix Maria back with her powers. Later that day, while walking home with Hitoko, Urei realizes he has forgotten his bag in the club room. He apologizes to Hitoko and asks her to go without him. Meanwhile, in the club room, Tomoyo stands before the mirror and imagines herself facing a formidable opponent. Unbeknownst to her, Urei sees and hears everything. The door suddenly opens and Tomoyo finds herself caught like a deer in headlights. She blushes profusely as Urei gloats about how she has always teased him for being a schizo loser, but now she is doing the same. Tomoyo, both angry and ashamed, tells Urei that he should not tease her since he frequently behaves like a lunatic. In response, Urei tells Tomoyo that he just wants her to admit that it's fun engaging in make-believe scenarios, and he is actually happy to see someone enjoy what he has enjoyed for so long. However, still pissed, Tomoyo tells Urei that she will fight him to death. This prompts Urei to tease Tomoyo further as he tells her that he would not want to die by the hands of a freak. Tomoyo asks him why he is even here. Urei tells her that he came for his bag, and when he proceeds to grab his bag, he notices Tomoyo's laptop. Tomoyo closes her laptop instantly and then proceeds to strangle Urei. However, when she remembers jail food sucks ass, Tomoyo finally lets go of Urei's neck. While gasping for air, Urei asks Tomoyo if she is trying to write a light novel. At first, Tomoyo tells Urei that she is just trying to pass some time, but Urei tells her to stop lying as he clearly saw a memo of the new author award submission deadline. Now pissed, Tomoyo asks Urei how he managed to see everything in a millisecond. She then tells him that if he wants to laugh at her, then he should do so. To her surprise, Hurai asks her why he should be laughing. Tomoyo hesitantly reveals how people who write light novels are seen as strange, but Hurai shrugs and tells her that there is nothing embarrassing about writing a light novel. Tomoyo then realizes that she is talking to Hurai, who is the epitome of weird. Feeling rather at ease, Tomoyo reveals that she is not sure whether she wants to be a professional writer or not, but as of now, she just likes to write stories. As she finds a look of understanding on Hurai's face, she asks him if he would root for her. To her dismay, Hurai states that he cannot do so, not when she is insecure and uncertain of her goals. Realizing what the boy means, Tomoyo smiles but then asks him how he manages to sound like a 6-feet-tall Chad during serious moments. Hurai tells her that he is always cool, and then asks Tomoyo about her first few submissions. Tomoyo hesitantly states that she failed twice in the first round. She also sadly reveals how even though she has this amazing superpower, she still sucks as a writer and her family relations are still shitty. Upon hearing Tomoyo, Hurai unleashes his dark, raves about it, and tells Tomoyo that it's okay to just enjoy her powers without making things complex. Unbeknownst to both Tomoyo and Hurai, Hitoko sadly waits for Hurai to show up, and when he does not, she ends up going home alone. The following day, during one of her classes, Tomoyo gets called out for using her phone. Right as class ends, Hurai finds Tomoyo busy with her phone. Before he can tell her not to waste her youth in an online relationship, Tomoyo yells excitedly and runs off. Hurai follows after her, and then learns that Tomoyo has made it through the first round of her writing competition. Happy to hear this, Hurai tells Tomoyo that this calls for a celebration and asks her what she would like to eat. Tomoyo bashfully states that she wants to try this dessert, which only gets served in one restaurant at noon. Understanding the situation, Hurai tells her that they will go on the weekend. When she tries to invite the rest of the members, Hurai reminds her how she is trying to keep her writing competition a secret, so they have to go alone. Being alone with Hurai sends Tomoyo into panic as she finds herself contemplating what she should wear. During the commotion, Tomoyo takes a moment to breathe and wonders what outfit Hurai would be wearing. A shudder runs down her spine as she imagines him in one of his freak costumes. Finding herself panicking again, Tomoyo assures herself that Hurai is just a boy who probably does not put down the toilet seat. On the weekend, Tomoyo waits for Hurai with her head swirling with thoughts about her outfit. Just then, Hurai arrives in a drippy outfit and steals Tomoyo's breath for a mere second. Seeing her stare at him, Hurai asks if there is something wrong with his fit. Tomoyo then assures him that he looks normal. Laughing slightly, Hurai reveals he is forbidden to buy his own clothes, so this outfit was chosen by his big sister. Upon arriving at the restaurant, Hurai goes through the menu and states that they should get the cake set, which is exclusive for couples. Shy at first, Tomoyo eventually agrees. A few hours later, Hurai tells Tomoyo that he had a blast at the bookshop. He reveals how he usually goes alone or with Hitoko, who does not really have knowledge on mangas and light novels. Tomoyo also says that she usually goes by herself since her light novel addiction is a secret. By the end of the day, Tomoyo tries to ask Hurai if he would like to visit the bookshop again, but ends up pussing out. As Hitoko waits for someone, she spots Hurai in the crowd. Her eyes instantly sparkle upon seeing Hurai until she sees Tomoyo with him. At the club room, Hurai, dressed as a demon king, addresses his loyal army, which consists of the members of the literature club. He tells them that he is no longer the demon king but Hurai, the reborn hero who will save humanity. His army tries to object by reminding him how humans have persecuted demons, but Hurai has none of it, and tells them that if they object then they should do so with their swords. And so one by one, Hurai defeats all of them. Upon playing the game, Hurai asks the girls how they came up with something so cool with their female brains. Tomoyo and the girls urge him to keep watching, and when Hurai obliges, he finds a happy birthday text on the screen. The girls then wish him a happy birthday, revealing they came up with this amazing gift. Upon hearing this, Hurai begins to cry happy tears. 10 months ago, Sayumi gathers everyone and states that she has thought about dissolving everyone's powers by using her ability. When she asks for objections, Hurai raises his hand and says he is against it. In the present, Hurai learns that Sayumi has fallen ill after working so hard on the game. Hitoko suggests they pay her visit, but then changes her mind and says that going together as a group might be troublesome for Sayumi, and that is why only one person should go. And since she got sick while making a game for Hurai, the gang votes for him to go. When arriving, Hurai learns Sayumi lives in a mansion. This gives him the idea that if he bags Sayumi, then he can just be a jobless gamer. After ringing the doorbell, Hurai is greeted by Sayumi, who reveals that she is already feeling well. During the conversation, Hurai tells Sayumi she looks cute in her pays and her glasses, make her look like she would spit on his face and call it a worthless dog. Hearing this, Sayumi blushes deep red when suddenly the door bursts open, revealing Sayumi's little sister Maya. Upon seeing Hurai, Maya asks her sister if they were making her some niece and nephews. Sayumi instantly reprimands her sister and extends an apology to Hurai. However, eager to further her sister's plot with Hurai, Maya tries to show him Sayumi's yearbook, which earns him an earful. Once Maya takes her leave, Hurai tells her that she is nothing like her. Sayumi confirms this by revealing how her little sister is wild in comparison to her. And if her grandmother was alive then, Maya would have been a different case. Intrigued by this demonic grandma, Hurai asks her more about her grandmother. Sayumi then reveals that the old woman would often chastise her when she was growing up. As Hurai learns about how her grandmother would tell her to become a proper woman, he tells Sayumi that her grandmother would be really proud that she has become a good woman in an era where women sell pics of their chocolate starfish for $2. Sayumi then smiles while Hurai goes through her yearbook. Upon noticing how Sayumi was a student council president, Hurai asks her why she did not run for presidency in. Sayumi's smile disappears and she tells Hurai to leave. Hurai tries to ask her if he offended her, but Sayumi states that she is just sleepy. Back to the past, Sayumi and Hurai decide to have a fight since their opinions clash. If Hurai wins, then Sayumi will let them keep their powers. Right off the bat, Hurai gets his ass beat. In the present, the members of the literature club find Sayumi absent again. Tomoyo reveals that Sayumi was present at school today, which prompts her to ask Hurai about Sayumi's well-being yesterday. Just when Hurai is about to reveal the entire story to the girls, his phone rings. After exiting the room, Hurai picks up the call and is greeted by Maya, who reveals that he dropped his ID card. After asking Maya to hand it to Sayumi, Hurai asks if something happened to her sister when she was a school council president in middle school. And so Maya reveals how Sayumi was the perfect president, which made her unpopular with the rest of the council members. In the end, Sayumi made it her goal that she would form a perfect student council when she grows up. After learning this, Hurai heads to have a chat with Mirai. He reveals everything that transpired and then asks her if she has any clue. Mirai speculates that Sayumi probably did not run for presidency because she wanted to have a closer relationship with the members of the literature club, as they all have superpowers. Hurai asks her when the elections were. When Mirai informs him of the date, Hurai realizes that he had his fight with Sayumi right around the time when the elections for student council were being held. At that moment, Hurai reaches the conclusion that Sayumi could not follow her dreams because of him. Without wasting another moment, Hurai runs to Sayumi's place to have a conversation with her. Upon meeting her, Hurai instantly apologizes to her for crushing her dreams. She quickly clarifies that she is not upset. The reason she sent him home was because she was sleepy and she could not attend club activities because she had to buy new contact lenses. However, despite knowing everything, Hurai apologizes to her since it was because of him that she could not become a student council president. Sayumi smiles and assures him that she is grateful for everything that happened. Rewinding to the past, just when Sayumi uses her route of origin to erase Hurai's powers, she realizes she is unable to do so. Baffled by this, she asks Hurai if he had always known. Hurai confirms, prompting Sayumi to ask him why he did not just say so then. Hurai then reveals that he was hopeful that she would be able to erase their powers, as everyone would feel better knowing they can revert to normalcy anytime they wanted. Hearing this, Sayumi admits that she is scared of her powers and often finds herself with questions like what would happen if their powers grew out of control or if one of them becomes as insane as a Taylor Swift fan. Understanding Sayumi's concerns, Hurai assures her that they can do a lot of fun things with their powers. And if something was to happen, then he would awaken his powers to stop theirs. In the present, Sayumi tells Hurai that she was trying to become the president to find closure for her trauma in middle school, which means she would not have been perfect for the role. Hurai then tells Sayumi that perfection does not exist in this world, and she is charming just the way she is. Sayumi smiles and tells Hurai that even if perfection does not exist, she would still like to try, and that would be enough for her. Back when they were both kids, Hitoko, being a dumbass, launched the fire alarm, prompting everyone at school to evacuate in the shed. Now scared of the whoopings and belts coming her way, Hitoko decided to hide under the staircase. Hurai finds her and assures her that if she is scared to apologize, then he will apologize with her, much to her relief. In the present, Hitoko wakes up and glances at the picture of Hurai with the rest of the members of the literature club and grows sad. Meanwhile, Hurai gets his butt whooped by his big sis, who asks him to summon Hitoko later tonight. Hurai kindly reminds her that Hitoko is not the demon butler Sebastian, that he can just summon her. Machi pouts and tells Hurai that if Hitoko comes to their place, they can both have a delicious meal since Hitoko is Gordon Ramsay's wet dream. Agreeing with Machi for once, Hurai invites Hitoko to his place. This makes Hitoko rather happy because now she gets to show Hurai and fat balding men that she is a waifu. At school, Tomoyo catches Hitoko in a good mood and inquires about it. But of course, since Tomoyo is a rival, Hitoko just smiles. As they later arrive at the literature club. For once, the gang decides to do normal club activity by talking about literature. After collectively sending FUs to Shakespeare for coming up with Oedipus Rex, the group decides to wind up for the day. Hitoko happily tells Hurai that they should go home together, but to her dismay, Hurai tells her to go ahead as he needs to talk to Tomoyo. Before turning into a manic pixie dream girl, Hitoko tries to stay positive and tells Hurai that she can wait for him, but Hurai tells her to leave his ass alone. Not wanting to show Hurai her murder motives, Hitoko smiles and leaves Hurai to his own devices. After getting the ingredients for tonight's dinner, Hitoko recalls a moment from middle school. Hurai excitedly asks her if she read the light novel he gave to her. Hitoko nervously reveals that she tried to read it, but then realized how it's nothing like Wattpad, so she lost interest. Upon hearing that, Hurai smiles curtly and tells Hitoko that it's okay if she could not understand how amazing light novels are since not everyone has a good taste. Meanwhile, in the club room, Hurai and Tomoyo decide to unleash their freaks by pretending to combine their powers together. Tomoyo is then struck with a sudden realization that doing this type of shit lands some people in the mental asylum. So she quickly stops and tells Hurai she is going home. Before she can go, Hurai asks her if she was not able to write a story during the literature club activity, because she thinks she is way better than the rest of the members, and that puts her under unnecessary pressure. Tomoyo sadly confirms Hurai's speculations and also reveals how she has not been able to progress in the light novel she has been working on. With that, she also admits that when she thinks about him reading her manuscript, she freaks out. Hurai tells her that she is just in a slump, but Tomoyo angrily tells him that he should not sugarcoat reality for her. Since the real reason she has not been able to write is because she is a talentless loser who would definitely receive a big fat no from Simon Cowell if she were to apply for Britain's Got Talent. Hurai tells Tomoyo that he admires her dedication, and this should mean a lot to her since he does not admire anyone else. After parting ways for the day, Hurai arrives home and apologizes to Hitoko for leaving her. Hitoko smiles and asks him what he and Tomoyo talked about. Before he can answer, Hurai receives a text from Tomoyo, causing him to be distracted. When Hitoko realizes it's Tomoyo, she tries to ask Hurai what they are talking about, but the boy dismisses her with vague replies. In the end, Hitoko finally has enough and yells at Hurai about how she cannot seem to understand him. She continues to scream at him about how 90% of the time he sounds like he is on some powerful shrooms, which makes him babble nonsense. By the end of it, Hitoko tearfully admits to Hurai that every time he talks, her brain goes brr-brr. Once Hitoko runs off, Hurai, surprised by her outburst, chases after her. While trying to find her, Hurai runs into Sayumi, who inquires if he is trying to find Hitoko, who he saw run in her slippers and apron. When Hurai confirms, Sayumi laughs and says that it appears Hitoko finally has enough of him. Surprised by this comment, Hurai asks him to elaborate, and so Sayumi states how Hitoko always looked like she was an outsider when she hung out with him. Hurai interjects and says that Hitoko does not feel stressed, but Sayumi cuts him off and reminds him that Hitoko is also human who has finally snapped. After hitting Hurai with cold hard facts, Sayumi takes his leave. As Hurai processes everything, he calls Tomoyo to ask her if Hitoko is at her place. When she tells him that she is not here, Hurai abruptly ends the call after telling her how Hitoko has disappeared. Continuing his search, Hurai accidentally falls in a pit where he realizes how this is the first time he is not with Hitoko. Meanwhile, Hitoko finds herself in an unfamiliar part of town where regrets start to catch up to her. Suddenly, a voice addresses her, and when she turns to look, Hitoko finds Kiryu. On the other hand, Hurai is greeted by Sayumi and Tomoyo, who try to ask him why he looks like his pet dog Steve died. Hirai reveals how he has been forcing Hitoko subconsciously to vibe with the things he likes. Upon hearing that Tomoyo slaps Hirai to bring him back to his senses, she tells him that there is no way Hitoko has faked her smiles. In the meantime, Kiryu tries to console Hitoko by telling her that what she feels is guilt for not understanding her childhood friend. With that, he also clarifies that Hirai suffers from a rare condition, where he seeks to be understood and misunderstood at the same time. This condition is called Shunobyu, and Hirai is a chunny who wants to be different and not like the people around him. Once Hitoko understands everything, Kiryu suddenly unravels his powers and puts Hitoko in a slumber. With Hitoko out cold, a group of suspicious-looking people join Kiryu. In a bowling alley, Kiryu faces a skinny Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen and tells him that he will not attack him outside the circle he has drawn. Sensing Kiryu's arrogance, the boy named Yukawa gets all riled up and tells him that he will put an end to his madness. But even in another anime, Nanami ends up getting his whooped. Before Kiryu can suck Yukawa into oblivion, Yukawa tells him that he lied about not stepping out of the circle. On that note, Kiryu tells him that he should never trust his enemy. Now pissed, Yukawa tries to use his powers against him. Kiryu calls upon his power, Pinpoint Abyss, and sends Yukawa to Uranus. Now inside a car, Kiryu sees Yukawa lingering outside the bowling alley and says that it's pretty upsetting how after the battle, his enemies return to life without any recollection of their fight. A small fairy in front of him tells Kiryu that this is the law of the fairy wars. The girl sitting in the passenger seat, Hitomi, asks the fairy named Licio why they have to make the humans fight each other in the first place. Kiryu answers for Licio and tells Hitomi that Licio is an evil version of Tinkerbell, as she and the other fairies have given these supernatural powers to humans so they can make them fight each other while they place bets on who they think will win. Since everything Kiryu has said is the truth, Licio moves on to another subject by informing Kiryu and Hitomi that Yukawa was not registered in the records. This prompts Kiryu to ask Licio why F is giving powers to just randos. Instead of answering him, Licio states that there is a reason why she summoned him and his entire group. As Kiryu's group rounds up in their lair, Licio commences the meeting by explaining her goal, which is to basically take out F. However, she explains that it will not be easy since F has a trump card with supreme powers. She further elaborates on how F and his group calls that trump card system. Since there is not enough information on system, except that he is on par with God himself, a member of Kiryu's circle, Eki tells everyone that she can use her ability, headhunting, to figure out System's powers. Another member, Fantasia, loudly wonders about what F aims to accomplish by using such an overpowering pawn. Yanaji, another member, responds by speculating that perhaps F wants to permanently abolish the fairy war. Agreeing with Yanaji, Licio states that there are many fairies who do not think highly of the fairy war. Yanaji then asks Licio if the fairy war management has not taken any serious action against F. Licio states that the FTLM is filled with curry munchers who just cannot reach a decision. She then turns to Kiryu and asks him to figure something out since he is the boss. However, instead of obeying the fairy, Kiryu tells Licio that if she wants to eliminate F, then she should be honest and upfront about it. Realizing her gaslighting has failed, Licio tells Kiryu that she prays he gets a pink eye from a hooker's fart. Instead of taking offense, Kiryu tells Licio that he does not mind crushing F, but he does not like the fact that she is trying to manipulate him. With that, Kiryu practices being a father by walking out the door. Later on, Hitomi worries about Kiryu when Lydia catches her and asks her why she likes an edgelord like him. Without waiting for a response, the fairy reveals that the FWM has reached a conclusion on F. Hitomi, reminds her that Kiryu will not help her out, which prompts Lydia to admit she messed up. The fairy then reveals how the committee of FWM wants to propose a truce, but then bamboozles F with a secret attack. Despite knowing Kiryu will not be helping Licio, Hitomi tells the fairy that she and the rest of the group will do everything in their power to crush F. After rendezvousing with the rest of the group, Hitomi infiltrates F's hideout where they find System, who greets them with a blood-curdling smile. When Aki tries to decipher her power, she begins to shudder with fear and tells Hitomi that they cannot beat System. System lunges at Hitomi with the intent to send her where Boku no Pico fans would go. But before she can do so, Kiryu makes a dashing entry and saves the damsel in distress. Kiryu then tells System that the people she is attacking are his friends. Surprised, Hitomi asks him why he is on speaking terms with the enemy. And so Kiryu reveals that he has already befriended System and made her the latest member of the Fallen Black by offering her candies, and now with her help, they will crush every last member of F. Several weeks later, Hitomi reprimands Kiryu for sleeping with colored contacts as he now resembles Ken Kaneki if he listened to Panic at the disco. Sighing, Kiryu states that he should have included a healer in their gang. He then remembers Hurai and his gang and tells Hitomi how the virgin boy has a healer in his squad. Surprised by this, Hitomi reminds Kiryu about how he was against including Hurai and his gang in this war. Kiryu says that he needs a healer to fix his eyes, so they will have to abduct the healer and Hurai's crew. And so in the present, Kiryu and his gang surround an unconscious Hitoko and realize they got the wrong person. Meanwhile, in the literature club room, Sayumi gathers everyone and announces that she has unlocked a new stage to her power. Without getting into details, she calls upon Hitoko, who vanishes from Kiryu's lair and arrives at the club room. After regaining consciousness, Hitoko apologizes to Hurai, who apologizes back. Tomoyo observes this interaction and quickly admits that she is trying to become an author of a light novel, and that is why she and Hurai were hanging out. Once the misunderstandings are resolved, Hurai raises his hand and reveals how he has also awakened the next stage of his Dark and Dark. After a couple of days, Tomoyo hands Hurai a manuscript of her novel. She tells him how she does not think she did a good job and wants his honest opinion on it. Like always, Hurai assures her that he would be honest with her, which puts a smile on her face. Tomoyo tells him that she is glad his mother dropped him as a baby and he became a chunny. Hearing this, Hurai jokingly tells Tomoyo that she should not be roasting the person who was about to help her. This instantly prompts Tomoyo to seek his forgiveness, which surprises Hurai, who tells her that he was kidding as usual. Tomoyo then clarifies how, all jokes aside, she finds him amazing. Upon hearing that, Hurai reveals how at one point he considered therapy in middle school, but then he met this weird white-haired girl who changed his mind. Just when Tomoyo hears that, she blushes red and runs off, leaving Hurai utterly confused. Later that day, Hurai raves about something weird again, which gets him scolded by Sayumi, who tells him to pipe it down since they have all gathered to study together. Hurai then playfully tells Sayumi that maybe he should unleash his new powers to regain some determination. The air suddenly turns grave as the girls sternly tell him to never use his awakened powers ever again. Hurai nervously tells them that he will not use his powers and then begins to study with the rest of them. After a while, he asks Chifuyu about her grades and she reveals that she got a 0. Stunned by this, Hurai tells her to stop using chat for studies or she will end up scrubbing the toilets in a Taco Bell restaurant. Chifuyu then informs him how she got a 100 in the previous test and how her mind works according to her mood. During the conversation, everyone learns about how Hurai actually does great in school. This instantly bums out Tomoyo, who states that she knew Hitoko was clever, but now she cannot keep on living knowing Hurai is better than her. As Tomoyo takes the news pretty hard, Hitoko invites her to study later on. And so the girls arrive at a cafe where they both study and then gossip about Hurai. During the conversation, Hitoko notes how Tomoyo and Hurai are a lot like each other. This upsets her and she ends up excusing herself. A few days later, Hurai happily exclaims that once they are done cleaning the club room, they can finally enjoy their summer break. While taking out the trash with Chifuyu, Hurai notes that she is upset about having summer break, so he makes Chifuyu promise that they will hang out at the pool later on. The next day, Kyuki observes that Chifuyu is not her usual self and asks her if something is bothering her. Chifuyu then tells her friend that whenever she thinks about Hurai, her chest tightens. Meanwhile, in the girls' bathroom, Sayumi is about to reach for her glasses when Sagami appears out of nowhere and tells her that if she goes for the glasses, she will forever be the second female lead who does not get the guy. Bewildered by his presence, Sayumi asks Sagami what he is doing in the female washrooms. Sagami slyly says that he is the omniscient reader who wants her to end up with Hurai, since he already knows that she likes him. With that, Sagami offers Sayumi a chance to become the main heroine. At the literature club, Hitoko confronts Tomoyo by asking her if she loves someone. When Tomoyo nervously says that she only likes her female happy device, Hitoko states that she is madly in love with Hurai. Stunned by this sudden confession, Tomoyo asks her why she is telling her that. Hitoko then admits that she wants Hurai to choose her. In the meantime, Hurai, blissfully unaware of all the baddies and the lolas flocking over him, talks to himself like the freak he is. In her bedroom, Tomoyo finds out that she did not win the writing competition. This upsets her so much that she starts to assault her poor body pillow. After regaining her senses, she realizes she has to tell Hooray about her failure, which frustrates her even more. The following day, Chifuyu and Kyuki wait outside the public pool in their swimsuits. Kyuki then asks Chifuyu if she has been doing her homework. Instead of answering her, Chifuyu tells Kyuki that she hates her since she lacks common sense. Surprised by her behavior, Kyuki asks her what she means, and so Chifuyu states that it's common sense to not worry about homework during the summer break, when suddenly Hooray arrives and greets the kids. Kyuki returns the greeting with a glare, while Chifuyu smiles shyly upon seeing her first love. Not wanting her only friend to get stolen by a twig of a man, Kyuki devises a plan to make Chifuyu hate Hooray. For her first plan, Kyuki decides to show Chifuyu how Hooray is not a provider Chad that will buy her food. But to her dismay, Hooray shows up with food that only Americans can eat in one sitting. When her first plan fails, Kyuki resorts to another plan which will show Chifuyu that Hooray is nothing but a wimp. She sneakily approaches a muscular man with the intent of asking him to beat Hooray. But as she stands before him, Kyuki quickly realizes she is a shy coward who cannot speak to strangers. Suddenly, Hooray arrives and saves her, which causes her to weep in relief. As her second plan fails, Kyuki forces Hooray to participate in a quiz so she can show Chifuyu how Hooray is an airhead. The host reveals that the person with the most correct answers will receive a car, while the second position holder will receive a stuffed dolphin. Chifuyu instantly falls in love with the dolphin, which Hooray quickly takes into observation. As the quiz progresses, the host begins to ask questions designed for adults. This upsets Chifuyu, but Hooray assures her not to worry and answers all the questions with ease, much to the host's dismay. Once Hooray wins the competition, the host becomes fearful that he would end up losing his car, but to his surprise, Hooray takes the dolphin and hands it to Chifuyu. This shocks Kyuki as well, who asks him why he did not go for the car. Hooray coolly tells her that he won their smiles. Upon hearing that, Kyuki's own heart begins to go doki doki. Later on, Kyuki reflects on her feelings and finds her heart wavering for Hooray, when the devil himself addresses her with all seriousness. Hooray tells her to always remain friends with Chifuyu, as eventually he and the members of the literature club will go about their separate ways after graduation. Hearing his request, Kyuki realizes she was wrong about Hooray, as he was never following her pastor's footsteps and just saw Chifuyu as just a child. The next day, Hooray gets a call from Sayumi and runs to meet her. Upon meeting her, Sayumi asks him to hang out with her. When they arrive at the public pool, Hooray laughs at his crappy fate. Sayumi tells Hooray to meet her inside, and once he is gone, Sagami arrives and tells Sayumi that everything is going according to their plan. Despite her annoyance, Sayumi wears the swimsuit prepared by Sagami and goes to meet with Hooray. Once the boy sees Sayumi, he tells her that God will have to take out his soul to keep him away from sniffing her armpits. Sayumi blushes at the compliment but tells Hooray to chill. As they head towards the pool, Sayumi is once again greeted by Sagami, who casually informs her that the swimsuit is see-through when it gets wet. This prompts Sayumi to go through great lengths to avoid water. In the end, Sayumi realizes that Sagami has lied to her to mess with her head. Now furious, she confronts Sagami by punching him. She then tells him that she is done being her pet and walks away. After her return, Sayumi teaches Hooray how to swim, who smiles and says that he is glad she is back to normal. Sayumi smiles at this and tells Hooray that she likes him just the way he is. That night, Tomoyo calls Hooray and asks him if he is free. When Hooray informs her that he and his family will be going on a vacation with Hitoko's family, Tomoyo becomes sad and ends the call. A white-haired girl struggles against her bicycle when Hooray arrives and helps her out of the predicament. Grateful for this, the girl thanks him in chunny style, which pisses off Hooray, who tells the freaky stranger that she should not live in this fictional world since it's not real. This upsets the girl, who pulls a woman moment on Hooray by hitting him with her vehicle. She then tells Hooray that the fictional world exists in their heart, and that is enough. Stunned by such wise words, Hooray becomes speechless. The girl arrives home and removes her wig, revealing her red hair. Remembering the past and her first interaction with Hooray, Tomoyo becomes rather sad and decides to rot in bed. In the meantime, Hitoko dresses herself in a new swimsuit and goes to meet Hooray at the beach. Upon meeting him, she acts according to the advice mentioned in the teen mag. Back home, Tomoyo heads to the public pool for a change of scenery. However, upon arriving, she realizes her life is as miserable as a man's life whose height is below 6 on. Back at the beach, Hitoko asks Urei to put sunscreen on her but ends up injuring him in the process. When that plan fails, Hitoko sees a couple where the girl is playfully making her boyfriend chase after her. Determined to woo Urei, Hitoko asks him to chase her. Reluctantly, Urei does as told, and after a lot of running, they both stop to catch their breaths. Unsure what to do, Hitoko pins Urei down and is about to confess when suddenly she gets dizzy and falls off. Later that night, Hitoko, feeling much better, asks Urei if their bond will change once they go to college. Urei then states that she is not just a friend, as being with her really saved him from despair. After saying that, Urei tells Hitoko that she is special, and that is why they will always be close to each other. Feeling satisfied, Hitoko happily screams Urei's name into the night. After coming back from the vacation, Urei invites Tomoyo to the firework festival. Seeing her in a yukata, Urei compliments her, causing her to blush. After going to a more secluded place, Urei asks Tomoyo if something is troubling her. Reluctantly, Tomoyo reveals she has failed the writing contest. When Urei offers her consolation, Tomoyo hugs him, and suddenly the fireworks go off. Recounting all her memories with Urei, Tomoyo realizes she is indeed in love with the freak. The next day, the members of the literature club round up on Mirei's notice. When the president arrives, she yells that her hand is burning, causing Hitoko to unleash a water bubble. However, instantly, Mirei steals her power and directs a fireball at Hitoko. Before Mirei can harm Hitoko, Chifuyu creates a wall, but that gets her power stolen by Mirei. Tomoyo hides behind Urei and uses her power to stop time, and then transfers her friends to safety. Now at a distance with Mirei, Tomoyo reveals to the gang that she was able to save them all thanks to Jirei. On that note, Jirei states that after his fight with Mirei, he wanted to be prepared for the next time something like that happens. After going to a karaoke club, Sayumi notes that while the person looked exactly like Mirei, her personality was entirely different. This prompts Urei to speculate that someone else might be manipulating Mirei. To confirm his suspicions, Urei rings Mirei and asks her if the real Mirei is safe. When the imposter refuses to answer, Jirei tells her to come and talk to him in the literature club. The line ends, and in the student council office, fake Mirei wonders why Jirei would want to meet. Sagami appears from behind and states that there is no way Jirei knows anything about the fairy wars. With that, Sagami tells the imposter that if she manages to destroy Team Jirei, then she can join their side even though she is an ex-employee of F. The imposter tells Sagami that she cannot really trust him but has no choice. Sagami politely states that she should trust her since he is the one keeping her real body safe. Meanwhile, in the karaoke club, Jirei asks the girls to let him use his powers. Once the girls reluctantly agree, Urei goes to meet the imposter named Nenoa, who instantly attacks him. Urei cackles and unleashes Dark and Dark's second form, which Nenoa quickly steals, but then yelps in pain when her hand starts to burn. Jirei laughs and says that Dark and Dark Stage 2 burns the user's hand. When Nenoa tries to use Hitoko's elemental power to extinguish the flames, Jirei tells her that it's pointless. Back to the moment when he first unleashed Dark and Dark's Phase 2, Jirei wailed in pain, prompting Hitoko to use her power, but no matter what she did, the flames would not get extinguished. In the end, Sayumi asked Chifuyu to create a black head remover, which was then used to cut Urei's arm. In the present, Urei forces Nenoa to return to her body, or else she will suffer like him. Reluctantly, Nenoa does as told, and once Mirei is back, Jirei consoles her and then cuts his hand in hers. Once Nenoa returns to her body, she throws a tantrum and asks Sagami for another chance, but he casually tells her that her time is up. Kiryu appears from behind and uses his powers to wreck Nenoa's memories. With that, he tells Sagami to stay away from the virgin child, aka Urei. Once things return to normalcy, Sayumi explains the entire situation to Mirei, while Tomoyo and Hitoko clear out their misunderstandings with each other. That day, Urei arrives early and tells Chifuyu to never use her powers for something evil, as their powers are only meant to be cool. Just as he unleashes Dark and Dark, Tomoyo smacks him for acting like a freak, while the rest of the gang watches them in amusement. Who do you think looks best with Urei? Let us know by commenting Sayumi's armpits for the win. And if you like anime recaps, then watch this video.